In March 2025, a satellite fired radar pulses into the ground beneath one of the most studied structures on Earth. What came back stunned the researchers. Not chambers, not corridors. Something far deeper, far stranger. Something that by every measure of known history should not exist. And here's the question nobody can answer yet. What exactly is buried beneath the Khafre Pyramid? And who put it there? This is what the data shows, and why the scientific world has been arguing about it ever since. The Pyramid of Khafre is the second largest structure on the Giza plateau. Standing behind the more famous Great Pyramid of Khufu, it still retains some of its original white limestone casing near the very top, the only pyramid at Giza that does. That surviving casing is a reminder of what all three pyramids once looked like. Blinding white, visible for miles in every direction. A civilization announcing itself to the world. For centuries, explorers believed Khafre held a single burial chamber. Italian explorer Giovanni Belzoni found it in 1818, tunneling through the base. Inside, a large granite sarcophagus, the pharaoh's name carved into the wall. But Khafre himself was not there. The tomb had been emptied long before Belzoni arrived. Which raises its own question. Who got there first? And what did they take? Since that discovery, the pyramid has been studied relentlessly. Ground-penetrating radar in the 1980s, seismic tests in the 1990s. Muon tomography, a technique using cosmic ray particles to image solid rock the way an X-ray images bone. Each method more sophisticated than the last. Archaeologists spent decades hoping one of these tools would finally reveal what lay beyond the known passages. Each survey revealed fragments. A possible void here. An unusual density reading there. Promising enough to keep searching. Not enough to rewrite history. Nothing fundamentally changed what we thought we knew. Until one team pointed a completely different technology at the bedrock beneath the pyramid and got back something no one was prepared for. Because what this technology found does not just go inside the pyramid, it goes beneath it, hundreds of meters beneath it. And the team behind the discovery says, 100%, it could not have happened naturally. So what exactly did they find? Here is what the data actually shows. The team calls itself the Khafre Research Project, led by Corrado Malanga of the University of Pisa and Filippo Biondi of the University of Strathclyde. They spent years gathering and processing over a terabyte of radar data before releasing their findings in March 2025. Their tool, synthetic aperture radar tomography, SAR for short, works by firing radar pulses from satellites toward the Earth's surface and measuring precisely how those signals bounce back. Different materials reflect radar differently. Solid limestone one way, an air-filled void another way entirely. Water differently again. Feed that data into a powerful computer and you can build a detailed three-dimensional picture of what lies underground, without disturbing a single grain of sand. Biondi first tested this technique on the Great Pyramid of Khufu in 2022, identifying known internal features as a proof of concept. It worked accurately. Encouraged, the team turned to Khafre. What they found inside the pyramid first, 5 previously unknown multi-level structures positioned above the known burial chamber, was remarkable enough to stop most researchers in their tracks. But what lies beneath the pyramid is in a completely different category. The scan data reveals 8 vertical cylindrical shafts arranged in pairs, descending approximately 648 meters straight into the bedrock. Think about that number for a moment. 648 meters is roughly twice the height of the Eiffel Tower, pointed downward into solid rock. The deepest confirmed ancient Egyptian construction reaches nothing close to that, nothing even remotely close. Consider what 648 meters actually means in archaeological terms. The deepest known ancient Egyptian structure, the tomb of Seti I in the Valley of the Kings, reaches approximately 137 meters below ground. That was considered extraordinary for its time. Extraordinary enough that Egyptologists still debate how they achieved it with Bronze Age tools. Now multiply that depth by nearly 5. That is what the Khafre scan data is describing. A structure so far below the surface that modern mining operations would require specialist equipment just to reach it. And yet, according to the data, something is down there. Something geometrically precise. Something arranged. Something that does not look like an accident of geology. What makes this even harder to dismiss is the consistency of the pattern. The 8 shafts are not randomly scattered. They are arranged in pairs, symmetrically, with spiral pathways winding around each one in the same direction. Patterns that repeat. In nature, only when a deliberate intelligence creates them, which is exactly what makes this data so difficult for even the most cautious scientists to simply walk away from. They cannot confirm it, but they cannot fully explain it away either. And that tension between what the data shows and what our current understanding of history can accommodate is precisely where the most important discoveries always begin. Each shaft is surrounded by what the researchers describe as a spiral pathway winding around it as it descends, like a double helix carved into stone. And at the base of these shafts, two enormous cubic chambers, each one approximately 80 meters on every side, larger than most of the world's great cathedrals, buried more than half a kilometer underground. Ask yourself this: what civilization, at any point in recorded history, had the technology, the motivation, and the means to carve structures of that scale that deep into solid Egyptian bedrock? Because mainstream archaeology does not currently have an answer to that question. When Biondi was asked directly, "Are these man-made?" his answer was immediate. 100%, he said. The geometry, the regularity, the way the structures connect, none of it could be naturally occurring. But here is where Calibrated Past does something most channels covering this story refuse to do. Because extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence, and there are serious, legitimate questions about these findings that deserve honest answers. Not because we want to dismiss what was found, but because the truth, whatever it turns out to be, is always more interesting than a story that skips the hard parts. So what do the critics say? And are they right to be cautious? The broader scientific community has responded with significant caution. First, the findings have not been independently verified. What the Khafre Research Project released are interpretations of radar data, not direct physical observations. No one has drilled down 648 meters. No one has placed a camera inside a shaft. These structures exist, currently, as patterns in processed radar imagery. Second, radar signals at extreme depth are notoriously difficult to interpret. Natural geological features, fractures in limestone, ancient underground water channels, variations in rock density, can produce patterns that closely resemble man-made structures. Without corroborating evidence from a different technology at the same locations, it cannot be ruled out. Third, Egypt's official archaeological authorities have not endorsed these findings. The Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities controls all excavation permits at Giza. No ground verification work has been approved. Without that, physical confirmation simply cannot happen. So where does the honest assessment land? The SAR technology itself is legitimate, used widely in environmental science, geology, and satellite mapping. Biondi's team demonstrated it accurately identified known structures before applying it to unknown ones. The researchers are credentialed. The data is real. The paper exists. What remains genuinely unresolved is whether the interpretation of that data is correct. Radar anomalies, even compelling, geometrically regular ones, are not confirmation of chambers and shafts. They are a signal. A strong signal, absolutely worth investigating seriously. But a signal nonetheless. And that is precisely the point. These pyramids have stood for 4,500 years. Every generation assumed the previous one had found everything worth finding. Every generation was wrong. We have been studying these structures for centuries with increasingly sophisticated tools, and we are still finding things we did not know were there. Which leaves us with the question this discovery really asks: if something this significant was hiding beneath one of the most studied structures on Earth, what else are we missing? The Khafre Research Project has formally requested excavation permission from Egyptian authorities. That request is currently pending. When that answer comes, we will cover it here, with the same standard we apply to everything on this channel, what the evidence actually shows. To nothing more, nothing less. And if you think the mystery beneath the pyramid is extraordinary, wait until you hear what your own DNA is still carrying from a species that died out 40,000 years ago. That is our next video, Calibrated Past, where ancient evidence meets modern science.